What is the single most important variable for well-being, mental health, and personal development? I've been sitting with this question for a while now. I've asked this to different coaches, psychologists, experts working with these topics. I've looked for answers in literature, research, behavioral science related research, spiritual literature. I've asked it to myself to see what my own inner wisdom points to. And I think this is very important if you're actually taking your well being and personal development seriously. Is it whether or not you meditate or the type of practice you use? Is it your routine or your physical health or whether or not you receive support or the people that you're surrounded with? These are obviously very important aspects, but in terms of what's most crucial, the answer that I keep going back to is understanding. And understanding is simply whether or not our underlying assumptions about our experience of life or our nature as human beings, whether or not these assumptions are actually in tune with the reality of how things work, the laws of nature, so to say. And the reason this is super important is that if there's a door that needs to be opened, it doesn't really matter how much effort you put into it. If it needs to be opened inwards, but you're trying to push it outwards, you're not going to succeed. And the examples of this are so many in so many different fields. So let's take flight, for example. Humanity has been trying to build airplanes for a while now. There have been many attempts, but no matter how much effort has been put into it, before the most fundamental principles of flight and gravity were discovered and understood, this couldn't be engineered. But once these fundamental principles were understood, the engineering part came on top of it very quickly. I think it's the same for well-being and mental health. Understanding is not necessarily the thing that is so hype right now or just appreciated, but it is absolutely fundamental. And the reason it is the most important thing is before you address it, everything else, yes, you get a temporary effect. Yes, you meditate twice a day or whatever it is that you do. If you don't really understand why that works, even if you have temporary success, next time you deal with a challenge, but you don't know the fundamental principles of where your experiences come from, for example, you're not going to be able to deal with that or to transcend that. And the value of understanding is once you have it, it's yours. I can't say it's yours for life because understanding is and clarity is something that can go up and down. We can get noise, we can get into our thinking about whether or not this was true. But once you see it at least once, it's much easier to go back to it. Like imagine a tree and you're looking for a bird in that tree. Once you see that bird where it is, next time, okay, you may not see it, but because you've seen it there, you know where it is, you know where to look for. There's an old story about this, about a man who keeps on looking for his keys outside the house, and he keeps searching for it, and the neighbors see him struggling and they approach him and ask him what he does, and he's just saying, I'm looking for my keys. And somebody just asks him, well, where did you leave it last time? Do you remember where it was last time? And he says, yeah, it was in my apartment. But so why are you looking for it outside? And the answer was because the lighting is better here. So again, understanding is exactly that. Where did we leave it last time? Where does it come from? How do things work? Naturally, the logical question or the next question that comes out of this, if understanding is so important, then how do we work with that? How do we increase our understanding? And this is a different topic, and we can dedicate a video specifically for that. But the beauty of it is that another word for understanding is truth. When something is just true, it is true. It is true regardless of whether or not we believe in it or not. It's just when our assumptions are aligned with that, everything that follows from that is successful. And there are many ways to increase understanding. You can just sit in silence and ask yourself what is true about my experience. You can ask people, you can look for it in literature. But either way, when you have a meaningful insight, you don't just get it intellectually, you just see it for what it is. That's why there's a way in which there's a difference between an intellectual insight about something and truly transcendence and truly wisdom. It's something else. So, my invitation to you today is to prioritize your understanding and simply activate your intention to increase your understanding. And there's a very beautiful verse or a metaphor about this in the Course in Miracles, which is, above all else, I want to see. Above all else, I want to see. So, prioritize your understanding, and everything else will be much easier.